All right.
We're live again.
We're live again.
I
I'm
told you
a
I'd
little
come
bit nervous.
back, just not
I'm a
at
little
11.
bit nervous because I think Trump might do a little guest appearance.
Guest walkout. All right, we can keep our eye on that.
I'll keep our eye on that. Yeah, there we go. Okay. If he does, we'll just kind of let it simmer. But I wanted to get your take because it's important.
Thank you.
On David Sachs.
Well, I hate David Sachs. That was, I think, one of the worst convention speeches I've ever seen.
No,
I was like
come
thinking,
on.
oh man, I was thinking back on some bad ones.
Clint Eastwood.
We love Martin O'Malley. Oh, Clinton Eastwood's a different level. I mean, Clint staring at the chair, but I meant just like the quality of the remarks. Bobby Jindal.
Okay.
Just kind of thinking back to people that you thought were hopeful might be good, and then it turned out were not good. I mean, David Sachs is a professional podcast host. He's a competitive podcast to mine.
Yeah, you're a little biased here, man. Because
you think I'm biased because he's a competitor?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think we have a lot of overlap in no Trump walking out there. It's Marsha Blackburn. Okay. I don't think we have a lot of overlap in audience. There's a few. We have a few people that overlap. Most of them are hate listening to one of us, though. So
I've long felt that Trump should come on your podcast.
I would love to have him, but no. David Sachs went up there. The substantive element that I think is noteworthy is that he blamed Joe Biden for the deaths in Ukraine.
Right.
He said that Joe Biden provoked Vladimir Putin, which is obviously horrific and wrong and nonsense. But outside of that substantive outrage, he was very on David Sachs. Like you would think, and he made a lot of money on the backs of Elon Musk and Peter Thiel's brilliance, kind of being a lower level person that had stock options at their companies. But you'd think that he would use some of that money for a speech coach. That's kind of stuff I used to do back in the day before I was a podcast host. Didn't seem like he used any of his money on a speech coach. So he was terrible. Charlie Kirk went up and gave a speech that was like almost interesting in a weird way.
Why was it interesting?
Okay, because it was not on message at all. And let me just say, since we last spoke an hour ago, I watched Joe Biden with Lester Holt, then I've watched like 4 speeches.
I've thoughts on Biden.
Okay, great. So we'll get to that. I'll just say on both sides, there's no message. I was criticizing Biden for a while, and I was saying at least Trump has a message. There's no message to this first night of the convention. Like it's all over the place. All of them are just talking about whatever they want. It does feel like they didn't come to a good conclusion for how to handle, like how to talk about the attempted assassination, which is maybe healthy, right? That there's not, again, like it could have been way worse. There's like everybody is in bloody shirt mode, but there's no message. The Charlie Kirk speech was interesting, like as a standalone thing, because his speech was more about like how millennials and young voters in this economy, don't get to have the house with the picket fence like their parents did, and the liberals just want us all to be on Lime scooters and renting. So it's an interesting critique of modern culture. I mean, not that interesting, but like, more interesting than you usually get at a convention.
I got 2 things on this. So one is Kirk, like at what point does he have to give up the shtick of being like the young Republican college guy? Like, I feel like he's grown out of it at this point. It's been about 10 years of being the college guy.
As somebody that had a Snapchat show until recently, I feel like I'm on pretty unsturdy ground in leveling this criticism, but go ahead. I'm with you.
Okay, that's my first thing. And 2 is this convention feels like a classic first night convention where basically you're like, all the people who we know we need to give speaking slots to like just, make them feel good. We're going to throw them on night 1. There's no coherent message, no theme. That doesn't, I guess everyday American is the theme, but like it doesn't really work. Yeah. It's scattershot. I can't really follow anything. David Sachs followed by Charlie Kirk followed by Marsha Blackburn. It's just the narrative flow is not there.
David was talking about foreign policy and isolationism, and I thought tonight was Make America Wealthy again or whatever. So I will say this. Tim Scott, who ran an exceedingly unimpressive presidential campaign, and who has really shamed himself in the ways that he's sucked up to Trump. Like his speech, I probably watched 5 or 6 of them, like actually echoed Trump's message. So maybe should have had Tim Scott in prime time instead of these other folks, because he did the thing that Trump does, which is we're talking about the border, how it's making people less safe, how it's hurting people's pocketbooks, and how Joe Biden is old and infirm and out to lunch, and how that is causing chaos domestic and abroad. Like that was Tim Scott's speech. It was a little corny, but he at least had a message. And I was thinking, I was like, oh, and then he also had, again, kind of a corny line about Trump, standing up and yelling fight after
Yeah, that was what I was going to say. That Tim Scott's message, the reason it worked in this context is because it was hagiography, and that's what this is, right? It's like, oh, I'm going to call Trump an American lion, and you're like, yeah, that's what this convention is. Whereas like David Sachs in his kind of ill-fitting suit is talking about like lives in Ukraine, and you're just like, where are you going with this?
The weird work that he has done on his face, it was very, the San Francisco, the eyebrows. They were not natural eyebrows. Joe Perticone is joining us. He has natural eyebrows.
Oh yeah, Joe.
How did David Sachs? How was that received in the room? Was it received as well as it was in my hotel room?
I'm not in the room. I'm in the press area.
How was it received in the press area, Joe?
It's pretty quiet in here. Everyone's doing their jobs.
All right. So, Joe, can you give us any on-the-ground reporting? Or are you just kind of checking in to say hi?
I'm checking in, but also I think that you're already starting to see the themes of like the disunity. So in between the speeches, there was a big video where Trump declared election denial, says we're going to have paper ballots. And so that's the kind of stuff they're feeding in between the speeches.
Interesting.
That you don't really get a glimpse of.
Because Charlie Kirk was like, we're going to chase every ballot. We're going to, go.
Yeah. Well, no, they put a video from Trump declaring, we're going to have a big, beautiful elections, and we're not going to let what happened in 2020 happen again.
Has Trump turned on the mail thing? Is he trying to backtrack on being pro-mail or no? Still no?
No. It's paper ballot, same day voting was in the new platform.
Interesting, because I think they had turned on it. I thought the RNC was embracing mail-in, but maybe Trump just can't get over it.
Yeah.
It's the Rubicon he can't cross.
Yeah.
All right, Joe, settle for 1 second because I did want to talk with Tim about Lester Holt and Biden. I watched it. Tim, I think we're in the same boat, but I don't know. You go first.
Give me something positive to say about it.
It's not positive. Meanwhile, watching JD Vance, he's showing up here. But we're going to talk quickly Lester Holt and Biden. Lester Holt sat down with Biden tonight. It was fine for Biden, but that's not fine, right? Like, if you're like a Biden stan and you watch it, you're like, okay, cool. Like he like turned one question on Holt and called Lester Holt out and said, you should be talking about Trump's lies. And like, fine, that's great. But like, if you needed, some dexterity, some political acuity, if you want like someone to like forcefully make the case, that's just not it. And I don't know how many more examples you need to see to believe that he's not up for that task, but like, he's now had several post-debate chances to do this. I think he's had a couple decent events. The interviews have not gone particularly well. I mean, they've been fine, but I think when you're running 2 to 3 points behind, you need to do something more aggressive and more substantial. And just he's getting these opportunities. Now, I will say the most sympathetic case is that he's still in this conversation of how bad did you perform? And like, do you recognize that you're like lost a step? And those questions are inherently put you on the defensive. But like, man, if you're a Democrat, you kind of need to see a little bit more here, right?
I mean, why is he still in that conversation? Because he can't get out of it. That's why.
Yeah.
Because he's not good at parrying the questions. He's defensive, and like Lester says to him, "Why not do another debate? Why not get back on the horse?" And he's like, "I don't need to do that. I'm on the horse.
Right.
I'm on the horse." And he's like, and then Lester's like, "How are you on the horse?" He's like, "Well, I'm demonstrating." People that I still have my mental acuity, or what was the word he used? It wasn't mental acuity. It was even worse than that. He said I still have command of my faculties. That's not a winning message. I'm still command of my faculties. So I'm
looking for the right quote here, but I think that's basically it.
He is not there for being aggressive. Like again, I'm not saying his dementia. He seems like he knows, like it takes him a while to get to the facts, but he knows what he's trying to say, but he cannot pivot to a positive message. He cannot pivot to an aggressive message against Donald Trump. And I don't know if people that watch this, they're mad at me. They're like, Tim, you're always picking on him. Okay. I don't know how, if the answer is every time he gives an interview, people that have already decided that he's old, thinks he's too old, and people that think that he's, might be a codger, but he's our codger and we're going to stick with him and he's done a great job. They think that's not good enough. He's gotta win people back.
Right.
And I just am not seeing that in any of these off the cuff. Again, I said on the podcast this morning, I'm happy to mention it. He was really good in Detroit last Friday.
sympathetic. Let's make the sympathetic argument. Here it is, and you tell me how full of shit it is.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
Okay. He shat the bed at the debate, right? He's gonna endure a couple of these interviews until it's done. He probably should have started the interview process a lot earlier to get it out of the way.
Yeah.
He didn't. Whatever. He's in the situation. He also is dealing with, an attempt assassination on Trump. Like, he's not going to
making this face at Don Jr., not at you. And David
I was a little bit offended. Then I looked at the
These are like the worst people in America, all in the same row. Okay, sorry. Continue.
No, it's okay. Okay, so he lost my train of thought. He's also this is all happening in the wake of the attempted assassination and the Republican convention. So, like, you're naturally going to be put on the defensive, even if you do parlay it pretty well. Like, these are just tough interviews, right? Like, it's just not going to be a place where you're going to be like,
oh my God, actually, Trump's going to come out. Trump's about to come out with a bandage on his ear.
Yes. All right. Why don't we take a little break? We'll pick it up after that. Let's go to the live stream right now, and we'll take it live.
I will say that the former president, obviously, it's an emotional moment for the family, but he's looking a little more vulnerable than usual in a way.
I was just going to say that. Just gonna say that.
Really?
I wrote it down. Like, there's like a sort of somberness about him, right?
Yeah,
it's right
there. I
would
have expected him to come out today with like a, almost like a boxing gloves, and they'd flirted it with. Maybe you woken up 50 Cent, the rapper who got shot, was going to come out like I was expecting like that, and there definitely is a vulnerable. The word is vulnerable.
100%, and you have to sort of imagine that I don't even know how the hell to fucking think about this, right? Sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear.
We can swear on the Bulwark YouTube.
Yeah, that's fine.
I swear quite a bit.
Yeah, like, this is just, on the one hand, it's probably like the biggest psychological mindfuck you can imagine, right? Like, he was just almost killed 2 days ago, right? And now he's like, oh, you're the Messiah, and like, come and save us. It's like, that's I don't know. Trump's obviously quite unique in terms of his ego, but like, and that there's got to be something unsettling to a degree about it. I don't know. I'm just sort of.
Well, he also is not a religious person.
No, of course
not. And and so hearing people talking about how God saved him,
right?
That's again, you're processing all this, and you looked at JD's right there. And I'm not a lip reader, but like when Lee Greenwood started talking, JD was looking at Byron Donalds, and they. To my eye, we're doing like it is fucking unbelievable that like he turned his head. Like, it is truly and as unusual as this is for all of us to watch, like, for that, I think that sentiment is there.
Yeah,
as well.
Just look at Trump now, like exactly what you're saying, like something oddly subdued, almost melancholy about it. I don't want to read too much into it, but yeah, the very different vibe than you're used to with the guy, and kind of a remarkable historical moment here too. The ear bandage, adding another element to it. Obviously, he's not someone who likes to, look anything other than his classical Trump look, but situation calls for this.
It's the Mike Tyson ear bite. It's hard for me to get my head off of. I mean, it's like, I can't think of any other time of a public figure who had a major ear injury. I know that there's obviously some differences there. Since Trump
just a few, Tim.
Anyway, it's worth just going back to what you were saying beforehand before we can let people get back to this. But again, I think it provides an opportunity for both these. Like, this is a totally. I mean, I guess the message of night one of this debate now is just Trump is alive and is the savior. So there's the cult element message, which is basically night one. But going back to the Biden, I heard everything you're saying going forward. I understand the frustration of President Biden that he's doing these interviews. He is showing that he doesn't have dementia. He is answering the questions. He is frustrated with the media. He does wish the questions were going to be about something else. But like, the frustration keeps coming back to the fact that he's losing the race, and the stakes are very high, and people have rendered a judgment on him that he's too old if you just look at the polls. And so it puts him kind of in this impossible position, which is like, I need to demonstrate to those people that I am not but time only goes one way. And so, like, I do think that I understand the frustration of Biden fans and Biden team in these interviews, but it's like, lengthy discursive messages, answers, that don't land to clear messages. It isn't the same, Joe Biden.
Yeah. And look, I mean, I'm not saying he's God or anything like this, but Nate Silver had an interesting article today.
I would hope Nate Silver would not be God. We'd be in a very deep. I have some concerns.
Yeah.
I have some concerns about the Catholic God as it exists, but I do think superior to Nate Silver, if I had to choose.
We'll welcome you into the Jewish tribe if you want. Yeah.
A rocky period. I'm already going through some. Rocky times with my political affiliation, my career. So I don't know. I don't know that joining it's the right moment to join Judaism. Sorry, go ahead. What were you saying?
I was gonna say he said the Vance thing. So obviously the background is Nate could be maybe the most bearish of the sort of polling data nerds on Biden's chances. Yeah. But he's like, the Vance thing actually is an opportunity. He's like, it actually opens the door for Biden to make a proactive case for his candidacy, more or less built around the themes that already exist. Like, women voters, you should be scared of this, right?
Yeah.
And today's call, I was on it with the Biden campaign. It was fine. It was conventional. It was a conference call with top officials. They made economic arguments, called them a false populist, that type of stuff. But to your point, it's like, when you're running down at this point, you gotta go. And I just think conventional campaign tactics and occasional sit downs with major news anchors and 2 campaign stops a week is just not going to cut it. Now they say, well, we have a lot of time, but you don't. It's like you have 4 months less. It's just not a lot of time. People are going to be voting soon.
Yeah, the JD thing does provide opportunity on the women's issues because he has some horrible quotes on that. I would be not doing service to the Bulwark audience if I didn't mention that it provides real opportunity on the national security side. Also, I mean, I think that there's a category of traditional Republican. In my head, I'm thinking of living in Atlanta, older guy that reads the Wall Street Journal ed board, that doesn't like Trump, probably voted for Biden last time. Mm-hmm. And they've been soft with those type of voters, right? Like a very traditionally conservative, older voter. Biden's numbers have been a little soft there, and JD does provide an opportunity, to message to some of those people.
It's just foreign policy election. It's just not.
No, it's not. No, it's not. We're just trying to win some people back on the edges.
Sorry,
I don't know.
Yes, of course.
I hear you though. No. That's not going to be the main thing. Abortion is much more potent with a broader audience. Of course.
Yeah.
But it's worth saying that Trump could have gone another way that would have foreclosed some of those voters for coming back to Biden.
Right.
Picked a more national security oriented, and I guess that's my point. That's on the margins, but.
What were some of the dark horse candidates that were being thrown around on our Slack channels today? Nikki Haley,
Youngkin, yeah.
Who else? So, someone 50 Cent,
Scott. I mean, Tim Scott. I mean, any of those guys. Burgum. Even East in a way would have been more ideologically, you could have made that sale. So I don't know. One more thing about Trump, I'm looking at him. Sure. He does kind of look like he's in pain. So he might very well be in pain. But I don't know. There was, because we haven't heard from him or seen him. There were the videos of him golfing yesterday. There was some chatter about that. Obviously, internet brained people of both sides were like, oh, he's golfing. He doesn't care about anybody. Or it's like, oh, he's a badass. He's golfing. I don't know. There's just a video of the guy golfing. He likes to golf. So we didn't really know.
Was that video even true? That was Mike Lee tweeting it, and people were like, "I don't know if that's real." It's just because Mike Lee.
I trust everything. If you don't trust what at base Mike Lee posts, if you don't trust base Mike Lee broke the JD Vance thing. He beat Caputo to the punch on that.
I'm talking to Caputo about that tomorrow.
There you go.
Not acceptable.
So anyway, I don't know. It's noteworthy.
Okay, but let's be real. He's 77 years old. He's running around the country, and he was just shot. He should be fucking tired. That's legit. Just like Biden, I give Biden some credit. He was in 15 different time zones. Whatever. You can be tired. You're old. These people are old. I think that's legit, and I think getting shot is legit. I'm shocked he's here. I guess he has to be here, but man, I would be, I'd be golfing too if I'm being honest. I would just be like chilling for a little bit.
Jim Swift with the fact check. Mike Lee was correct about JD Vance, but incorrect about the golfing. So
where's Jim telling us this shit?
There you go. He's in the comments there.
Jim, hop on the chat. Jim.
Incorrect. Incorrect about the golfing. So the based Mike Lee Twitter feed.
Let's talk a little bit about Mike Lee. We talked about Mike Lee in the pregame.
Yeah.
But like,
it is bizarre.
That's the microcosm that is like the pure microcosm of modern Republican politics, right? Like his 2016 convention appearance to now.
Yeah, 8 years ago, he's on the floor. So I was part of the group that was doing what was called Release the Delegates.
Yeah, I remember.
Another thing that's giving me PTSD. Yeah, about this election. But I was advising them on PR, and about a day before the election, I decided not to go to Cleveland because we didn't have the numbers. And I was like, I'm not going to go punish myself and spin bullshit for a failing Release the Delegates effort. I'm a glutton for punishment, but I'm not that big of a glutton for punishment. So instead, I went to Richmond and went to see a concert with my friend, and we got drunk.
Who'd you see?
Will Ritter. You know Will Ritter. I
know Will, but what concert did you see?
We went to see. Oh shit! It was the Black Keys have the one guy's the spin-off band. I'm blanking on the name of it. It's a spin-off band off the Black Keys. But Mike Lee was I guess my point in telling that story is that Mike Lee was more adamant than me. Like, I felt like I was at the tip of the spear of this stopping Trump, and he's like, "No, I'm going to go there and I'm going to shout from the floor in the hopes maybe that creates some kind of follow-on effect." It didn't, obviously, but no. I mean, the different now. I mean, his Twitter feed is totally real. He has probably the most Trumpian Twitter feed in the Senate. Maybe
I was in Cleveland. I was in the convention hall when it happened. I was also there. Here's Amber Rose.
We should probably listen to Amber Rose.
Let's Amber. I'll tell the story on the flip side. Let's listen to Amber quickly, Barry.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, I'm sure that Amber has a very detailed grasp of the macroeconomic factors that were leading to inflation or not, but her speech was significantly better than David Balsack's.
Yeah, it cleared the David Sachs bar. I will say she probably should have, if she did her research on Trump's racism, I think she might
have stumbled on a few quotes.
Yeah, she might have stopped researching a little bit. And guys, we are joined by Jim Swift. You might see him there in the bottom screen. What a pleasure. You're
going to tell us about Cleveland 2016, though.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's great that Jim has a Cleveland hat. So, Jim, we were talking about Cleveland 2016, the convention, before Amber came on. We're doing it because we were making the point of the evolution of the party. Tim was going to go. He decided not to go. I went. I was in the hall. I can still remember the kind of shaking of the room when Ted Cruz said people should vote their conscience. Like, I just remember the eruption, the boos, but the cheers too. Like, absolute, complete division in the room. You felt in that moment like the party was coming apart, it seems. And then tonight, it's just like, it's hagiography. It's a love fest. There's nothing in any indication of any division at all whatsoever.
Sam, I remember exactly where I was in Quicken Loans Arena when Ted Cruz said that. I was not, I've never really been a Ted Cruz fan, but I remember exactly where I was going and exactly where I was walking up the stairs when that, you could feel it in the room. It really was like the energy had just really changed. I'm not sure we're going to see many moments like that here.
See no moments like that. None.
Yeah, but it was really kind of the last.
Is Cruz even speaking? Is he scheduled to speak at this convention? Do we know?
I haven't seen any indication that he is slated to speak, but I don't think that they've been giving us the lineup as quickly as previous conventions have.
A lot of people seem to be getting high in the comments section.
What do you mean?
Jealous?
What we got?
I don't know. They're just several people discussing that they're needing to resort to.
The drugs,
a little bit of inebriation to deal with this, and I'm jealous. That's all.
I guess what kind of drugs you could would be appropriate for this convention? I don't know. You can choose.
I do think Amber Rose got a better reception at the 2024 GOP convention than Ted Cruz did in 2016.
Oh, 100%.
Clearly.
Yeah, clearly. What did you think of Amber Rose, Jim?
I mean, I was explaining in the comments who she was. She rose to fame thanks to Kanye, and as a Swift, of course, we're not big fans.
150 milligram gummies, Kim. Chill out.
150 mil?
Yeah, chill.
No,
Kim,
you need to cut those in like tenths.
Yeah,
at least.
dial it back.
What the hell are you doing,
Jim? What do you think about Amber Rose? How she did on the slut walk? Are you a big follower of Amber's other work?
No, in fact, I only know who she was. I copy and pasted the Wikipedia. I knew she was.
You don't have a similar tattoo on your forehead, Jim?
No tattoos. I mean, I do wear the hat for Cleveland. But you got to see my hat hair there, but no, it's not covering up any regrettable tattoos or anything like that.
Let's ask Jim what he thought of Trump too, because Tim and I had similar thoughts about his appearance, but also just sort of the vibes around him. Curious what you thought, Jim, if you were watching.
Yeah. Someone in the comments was wondering if he was going to go with the Band-Aid. And I thought like the combination, we're having rappers there. Like, would he go with the Nelly Band-Aid? The full ear thing was an interesting choice because it could fall off. And I think that's what one of you guys said. But like, there he is. I mean, if you remember RNC, they had like the crystal ballroom where Trump and his family could like hide and not be on camera. So it is like an interesting, bold choice, I think, for him to be on camera here, other than just kind of go out and wave. Because, a lot of weird things could happen, with a room full of adoring fans. There were lines of Secret Service out there. Like there could be some, not bad, but like awkward made for TV moments as like a well-wisher could go over and want to like pray over him or something. Wouldn't be unusual at the convention.
Can I throw a half-baked idea at you? Okay. It's again just day one of the convention and all this, but the caution, is it possible that I don't think that we're getting the softer, gentler Trump, whatever the absurd shit that Axios was saying this morning. Oh man, he might bring the country together. But like, is he getting a little traditional? Like, is this night one of the convention? Like, I mean, obviously having Amber Rose on stage is not traditional, but it doesn't have the kind of weirdness, the authentic Trumpness of the 2016 thing or the 2020 thing, which was totally inappropriate to have it at the White House, but like that had its own kind of element to it. I don't know. Is he going corporate? I guess is what I'm saying.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Maybe a little, but like it still feels to me like it's sort of got that reality TV vibe. Honestly, like down to like the whole we got like all the VP nominees were going to be called in, and so got their rose that they were not going to be the pick, and we were getting those reports in real time. And then obviously, but maybe there's just only so much you can do with the stagecraft of these things, right? Like,
it's interesting you mentioned stagecraft because the design of the stage is very similar. It's dark, it's black and white. It's not the kind of red, white, and blue you remember from like grainy C-SPAN videos with the balloon drop. It's kind of like, Death Star dystopian. And, as Tim was saying in 2016, remember that black screen and then the silhouette and him coming out. I think it's too early to tell. I think we're going to see that messaging.
We might see that. We got a couple nights, guys.
Yeah.
How many more nights of this do we have to do?
Today's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Guys.
I'm heading out there tomorrow. I will not be on this, but I will be on Thursday and Wednesday, Thursday. Guys, let's take a pause. Let's listen to Sean OBrien. He's the last speaker of the night. This is the head of the Teamsters Union. Very rare for him to be speaking at the Republican convention, so kind of newsy. Tim, I think you got to bounce, so
I got to roll. I'll see you on the podcast tomorrow.
All right, Jim, stick around. I'm going to grab some other people. Let's listen to Sean for a little bit while let's pick it up here if Barry can mute this. Okay, that was honestly incredible. I'm going to take privilege of the host here. I'm going to take a couple minutes to just sort of digest that because that was incredibly rare to see something like that happen, maybe unprecedented to see something like that happen. And I think to some degree really underscores our modern political system and how kind of up in the air it's been thrown by Trump. Okay, so Sean OBrien, head of the Teamsters, gets on stage. I think that was the longest speech of the night, like by some magnitude. So rips major corporations from the stage, among them Amazon, Walmart, Uber, Lyft, just tears them to shred, warns of economic terrorism, delivers a pot shot to the Chamber of Commerce, that's not like something you would ever see at a Republican convention. It's shocking to see because historically Republicans have been very much aligned with corporate interests. They've wanted to protect or align themselves with the Chamber of Commerce, and they fought union policies. The other thing that was shocking to me is that yes, there are some Republicans who have shown some pro-union tendencies. I think Vance is among them, Hawley's among them. The Teamsters got a $36 billion pension fund bailout from Joe Biden. That money was courtesy of the COVID relief bill that Biden passed early in office on a party line vote. I mean, the Teamsters pensions are basically saved because of Biden. And for Sean O'Brien to go to the RNC and give whatever cover he gave to Trump and to make the case that Democrats are somewhat out of touch and that everyone needs to get along and so on and so forth is a real middle finger to Biden. I cannot imagine that goes over well at all with a president who must be wondering what the fuck he did to deserve this after getting $36 billion to rescue that pension. But AB, I don't know, maybe I'm like way out of place, but I was just watching, I was just shocked. I can't recall ever seeing anything like that. And maybe I'm getting a little wonky too, but correct me if I'm wrong. AB, you're muted. Unmute yourself first.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we got you.
Sorry. No, I agree. It was dramatic. And I, too, was thinking of Joe Biden. And I was hoping he was going to take it in because he needs to, as painful as it will be. Trump has realigned our politics. He's moving non-college Black and Latino voters out of the Democratic Party. And he is really breaking up the chokehold of union support, even though unions are weakening anyway. But it was so fascinating to hear him make his pitch for Trump and then go into his stump speech,
right,
and call and talk about greedy employers. There was not a lot of applause, but there was at other times when he talked about workers. But it was amazing to hear him attacking those corporations in a room full of people that, this hall, these delegates, they don't like the Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber of Commerce backed the Joe Biden bipartisan infrastructure package and worked really hard with Senator Cassidy from Louisiana and others who are proponents of it to try to get House Republicans. They got all of maybe 13 of them, all of whom were primaried for supporting a bipartisan infrastructure bill that was long sought by both parties and would help their own districts and help the economy. So because of politics, that became toxic. Therefore, the chamber became isolated. Everything has changed. And so in the Republican Party, it's populist, it's nationalist. So it was wild to see, but it's not surprising in terms of the direction we've seen everything moving.
Yeah, Jim, do you have any historical knowledge you want to drop on us about this? I mean, it's just, you've been covering Republican politics forever. I can't imagine turning over the last night of a convention to a leading union figure. Just unprecedented.
Yeah, it was. And, I felt myself turning into the Republican Senate staffer I was 17 years ago, just listening to the kind of torrent of mistruths and some outright lies from Mr. O'Brien there. Like, Amazon doesn't have good benefits. Yeah, you can say that the jobs might be a little bit too hard in some instances, but they offer health insurance on day one. I know that's true because I've had friends work for Amazon, and, it's also in their commercials. It's strange to me that he spent so much time talking about people. Maybe not strange, but when he was talking about Hawley and then started going down the list of other people, I mean, Josh Hawley's running against Lucas Kuntz, who I did a profile on about 1.5 years ago. And he's a huge fan of organized labor and does not have Josh Hawley's background. I think Josh Hawley, where unions are actually pretty strong in parts of Missouri, just kind of caved because he saw that's the way that Trump was going with certain unions. But, if you're looking for a horse to back, I mean, yes, Hawley's probably going to beat Lucas Kuntz. Picking him over someone who's like a clear friend, that seemed like the closest thing that you could get to an endorsement. It seems very odd that, he's trying to strike this balance here, but I made a mention here in the comments in the chat. I think that, he's under big pressure from a lot of his union members who are big fans of Donald Trump.
Right.
And if they just kind of did their lockstep, no, Republicans are not friends of organized labor, and historically they're not. That they could lose some support. And as AB was mentioning, the unions are crumbling. Josh Hawley might be against right to work, but right to work is largely winning, just like the NRA largely won on concealed carry. It hasn't won everywhere, and Missouri and Ohio are examples of that. But, I wouldn't be shocked if Trump just, was fine with some, judiciary decree kind of creating a penumbra, a ruling of right to work. He'd say, oh, sorry, guys. I don't buy that the Republicans are really going to become friends of organized labor.
No.
But
Trump, and we went through this before, Jim. We did this in 2020. We did this in 2016. Like, Trump obviously has an appeal with the union vote, but like his policies in office were definitively not pro-union policies. Where were some of them? The National Labor Relations Board stacked with people who are pro-business interests, attacks on the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, of other things. He was not like, he was a traditional Republican in the postures that he took when it came to union. It was not anything that the Teamsters probably applauded. Joe, I want to just sort of kind of step back a little bit. Like, what's the goal in having Sean O'Brien end the convention, and like, what was the goal if they won, and I guess did they accomplish what they set out to do?
He requested it. I don't think it's been confirmed that he'll speak at the DNC, but he requested speaking slots for both parties. The fact that they gave him such a long speech and the end of the night speech, I think, speaks to the opportunism that you see in the GOP now. JD Vance has a 0% rating from AFL-CIO. This is not a pro-worker party. You could tell by the quietness of the crowd compared to Amber Rose speaking. I raced back to the filing center after Amber Rose because I went there and I wanted to get eyes on Tony Perkins, but I couldn't find him. But, I think it's just like O'Brien getting a big speech at this time. It just shows like they will do anything. They will say anything.
I think it also is like Trump loves to try to pick at, he's smart in this way. He likes to pick at the other person's coalition, right?
Yeah, and he loves the acceptance of people who haven't accepted him before, and someone like O'Brien would be perfect. But like O'Brien didn't endorse there, but he gave a very big helping hand to Republicans tonight by doing this. Like, he cut a lot of sound bites for them where they can say we're pro-worker.
Yeah, totally agree. AB, is that your take too? I guess we were talking about this earlier. There didn't seem to be like a kind of overarching theme to the night. It was kind of scattershot a little bit. Obviously, a couple everyday American speakers, and then Amber Rose, who definitely not an everyday American. But yeah, so we were struggling to figure out what the theme was for tonight, and then Sean O'Brien with this closing speech kind of adds to my confusion, I guess.
Right. It was a jumble if you look at everybody together. But interestingly, they're ordinary Americans telling their stories of how their lives have changed and rising costs. That's, that I don't know how many people are going to tune in and stream this convention. It's pretty dull. But Trump wanted to make it dramatic by showing up with his big bandage and sitting in between Vance on one side, Byron Donalds on the other, then Tucker, then Speaker Johnson in like the bro front row. He looked bored as hell.
Yeah.
But he basked in the glow because they say, I love Trump, and chant in between, and the fight. And the body language between him and Vance was terrible. But Vance, to my pleasure, did have to clap and say, I love Trump, I love Trump. And the theme in between the life is hell under Joe Biden stories, which were compelling, was the theme of conversion, right? Amber Rose, I can't remember the name of the woman that they introduced as a Latina American. These are people who've come around and are telling the crowd that Trump is lied about, he's wonderful. And as you just pointed out, this feels good. Or was it Joe? Sorry. this feels good when someone was a former critic comes around. He loves that, comes around to submit. So the story of regular women coming and telling their stories to the crowd, saying, you know, I too, I voted for Biden, or I didn't believe that Trump was a racist. They love that stuff. So it's not that there was an overarching theme, but I get why they chose the speakers. And the Sean O'Brien thing is it's provocative.
Well,
So,
and Vance fits into that, right? Like the conversion. I really love that theme, that observation.
it's true with Vance. It's true.
Yeah, could be an interesting written piece too. Wink, wink. But yeah, the conversion thing is totally in Vance, right? Like he once hated, and he now has been found, and like that is just the theme of the night, basically.
It was amazing to watch him turning Trump at this angle with this clapping, everyone clapping, including Trump. And he's going, I love Trump, or we love Trump. We love Trump. It was amazing to watch.
Do you guys remember Lynn Patton in the 2016 cycle?
Yeah, of course.
Lynn Patton, the former, was she an apprentice? She was on The Apprentice.
Yeah.
There was a similar theme that I remember. I went to a Moms for Trump rally in Leesburg where Lara Trump, who had just married Eric, kind of went. And they basically, they're selling not just conversion, but now that it's okay to vote for Trump. I was a little skeptical in our Slack. I was pointing out that the first ordinary American, I thought it was weird that almost none of them told you exactly what they did. And the woman with 2 jobs, her second job is at Turning Point USA Action. You know, it's a job a lot of ordinary Americans have, is being a paid political activist for a guy who later was speaking at headlining the Republican convention. You know, I'm sure that, you know, if we dug into all the stories, you know, you'd find a little bit more of these sorts of clues about, you know, you don't end up at the RNC convention speaking as a true, like, off the street, everyday American. You're usually pretty politically involved to get there.
And
yes,
during Linda Fornos' speech, you know, she said, I voted for Hillary in 2016, Biden in 2020. And so there's this theme of like the crowd absolves her of her sins. And so like the whole religious experience of it is weird, but it's like
it was
there's the conversion and the absolution of your sins.
Oh, and then on top of that, you add Trump's, you know, near assassination, hailed by Tim Scott as, what was it, an American lion? I think was the exact words, and the spirituality behind that presentation too. And you know, AB, I take your point. Tim and I thought that he looked not bored, but almost somber in a way, and maybe that was the effect of his boredom. But you know, it's something like, you know, he had gone through a traumatic experience, obviously, and then 2 days later was sort of in front of these adoring people and being called sort of a messianic figure. It almost seemed like he was overwhelmed by it in a very un-Trumpian way. And that struck me as well.
I don't know. I saw him genuinely smile at people. I mean, he doesn't smile a lot. I saw him smile several times because he was really basking in the adoration. And that's what he craves. That's the most important thing to him. And I don't know. I'm not going to say anything negative about Trump. I just will see later this week if a changed man appears.
Well, that's what I want. I'm kind of curious, is like, what do we expect from him, right? We've been told this is a unity convention. Obviously, no one really believes it's going to be the complete theme. I don't really know what to expect from Trump when he does speak on Thursday. I would like some predictions from the crew here, if we can get a few.
I don't know, Joe, do you buy it? He's gonna be kumbaya.
I don't know. Maybe. I think the unity that they're talking about and that we've heard about is not a unity of the country. It is a unity of the party. That's what it's felt like in the past 24 hours at least.
I think it's a unity on Trump's terms, right? Stop the prosecutions of me. Like, if we need to unify now, like, leave me alone, basically, and that's the unity. Is like, stop attacking me. And that's not going to happen.
Can I take it a little bit darker than that? I think he's going to suggest that, like, if you don't give him the fealty, i.e., unity, worse things are going to come. I think it's going to come with a threat, an implicit threat that if you guys don't stop I'm not going to even give like quotes to the kinds of, you know, nicknames that he has for the various prosecutions, but if X, then Y. It isn't going to be a kumbaya, and it's not even going to be toned down. I mean, maybe I know a listener said that they were on 150 milligrams or something of weed earlier. Maybe he'll be drugged up a little bit, like to not be as aggressive. But I just don't see it, and I think that there's always a price with Trump. There's nothing ever offered for free. So if he's offering unity, it comes with a cost, and he's going to make it very clear what that cost will be, and it's going to basically be a threat. That's my prediction.
What do you think, AB?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that he had this dramatic interview with Selena Zito where he said, "I'm not supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be dead," and he's had a profound experience. There's no question. I just doubt that he's going to be mellowed, that we're going to see a different person. I doubt that he'll be magnanimous. I'll believe it. I will believe it when I see it, but I just doubt it. And I mentioned earlier his bleat on Truth Social. It was sort of back to the same thing: accusatory lying, witch hunts, the Biden administration coming after him. I think Jim's right. He's probably going to. I think also he's caught up in a moment where everyone is telling him that this was providential and that he was chosen by God to survive. He put it in his own tweet on Sunday morning that it was an act of God that spared him, that spared him from the unthinkable. So he was chosen to survive. The man who perished behind him was not. Lee Greenwood comes out, makes the same kind of reference before he sings. And people are swaying, and there's very much, as Joe mentioned before, there's this like very spiritual vibe to it, and people feel that he's chosen, and I think he's fully bought into it now more than ever.
Right. Well, that's what was getting me.
Cynical, but now he's like, he's into it. So I don't know that it'll mellow him. I think it will. I mean, I think he's very confident, but I don't know where that takes us. It'd be hard after watching someone who really, really has been sadistic and reveled in cruelty. It'll be hard to imagine that he, just becomes a different person and wants to reach beyond that hall, as Joe said, to unify the country instead of just his party.
Yeah, I just can't get over the vibes that you're underscoring here. The providential, the sort of raising him up as an American lion, the spirituality of this, the conversion elements of it. I mean, it really was and Joe, you were right. What were we talking about as a storyline before this? The secular GOP? Because heading into this, we were going to do the secular GOP, but
there was one religious leader on the speaker docket before the assassination attempt. So,
right, which it's incredibly rare, right? Like usually these conventions are infused. The Republican one is infused with evangelical leaders, but not this one. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead, Joe. Go ahead. Talk about.
I was just saying how, like, prior to the assassination attempt, the speakers that were slated to sing, there was the head of the Republican Jewish Coalition, which is more of a political position. It's not a religious leader. And then there was Franklin Graham. And then there were a couple other like quasi-faith leaders, but they were more just political leaders like Tony Perkins. And so it was like this the theme was that there were more people like frat bros and Amber Rose and, Tucker, instead of actual like religious leaders like they like. And so but again, like it shows how quickly this modern GOP adapts and pivots when something very opportunistic gets in their lap.
Yeah. To that point, Charlie Kirk, is he not a faith leader?
Charlie Kirk is a leader of a youth group that primarily makes content for boomers.
Right. But remember when he partnered with Falwell for the Falkirk Center? Mm-hmm. And then he had the fall from grace. I think that, we have seen a secularization where a lot of these folks, they're in disorganized evangelical churches. They find their kind of national institutionalized religion through groups like Turning Point USA and related groups, Turning Point Action. But I think that was an astute point Sam made.
Well, it's just the 180 degree turn from what Joe observed 4 days ago. We were set to like write a piece on this, right? We were going to be like, this is the secular GOP coming to fruition, because the lineup was just completely devoid of prominent religious figures, minus Franklin Graham. And then you have the attempted assassination on Saturday, and then, you know, moment after moment tonight where it's not like, other than Lee Greenwood, it wasn't like totally in your face, but it was just the underpinning of much of the programming that AB was talking about, where it became almost sort of like not a religious experience, but it felt like we were watching something happening that was meant to feel like a religious experience. That sound right?
Kind of like a revival, Billy Graham.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like, you know, that was not planned, obviously, but it became the programming because of what happened. I want to sort of wrap up with a sort of larger question, because we were talking about this earlier. We'll go around the horn here, but like, this wasn't the only event that happened tonight. Biden sat down with Lester Holt for an interview tonight in what is a continued attempt to sort of defibrillate his campaign and do these big interviews and some of these campaign stops. And obviously, he's got his convention coming up in a month, if he still makes it as the candidate to that convention. The contrast, though, I feel like, just once again, there's not much he said on Lester Holt, for those who didn't watch, that would give you an indication he's got the capacity to make up ground that he needs to make up. And AB, I don't know if you got to see much of the interview, if we were able to take a peek at any of it, but like, talk a bit about sort of the two events that happened tonight, the split screen that we're watching.
Right. So I did not get to see all of it. I've just seen clips of, I'm filing something in the morning on all of this after I finish the whole interview. Every answer of Joe Biden's is focused on himself and his past, with a party that is looking at polling data, knowing that they're about to completely tank and lose everything. And they don't, I mean, they can't break through with him. Lester Holt asked, who do you consult about these matters? He said, myself.
Right.
And he is as out of it as ever. He is buoyed by these events where he goes, and they, you know, as I referred to earlier, they set up a real nice one for him in Detroit. He felt very loved. He thinks that is the way, you know, that it's like Trump, the way he feels at a rally. Like, of course he didn't lose the 2020 election because he has big rallies. And so Biden told Lester Holt that he's done 22 live events with thousands of people since the debate, and he's proven his capacity and that he's in control of his faculties. And he just can't conceive of the idea that the polling shows that Americans believe that he cannot serve out another 4 years. So it's a very live story. The party has settled into a quiet post attempted assassination of former President Trump for a matter of days, but it will not go away.
Yeah, Jim, what do you make of it?
I wasn't able to watch the speech. I did catch an excerpt of the one that we were talking about, the kind of YouTuber interview that he did.
Yeah.
That wasn't so good. I don't really like this sort of I alone can fix it sort of mentality that AB was referring to. I'm going to watch the interview when we get off here. But he also did that with George Stephanopoulos. And, you know, I mean, the people who voted for him know that he has good instincts. I think they're looking for other answers on, you know, I mean, Joe's Catholic. Why didn't he say, you know, I talked to my priest. He's a pretty spiritual guy. But, you know, I just do it myself. I mean, we all need to rely on other people. But, you know, you think back to the 2020 campaign when the initial sorts of doubts about his, you know, kind of fitness, given his age, were being drumbeat by Republicans. He would just sit there and answer questions until every reporter asked questions. And, you know, he has done some events. He's had some very good, his speech in the Oval Office after the assassination attempt was really, really good, I thought. But he's not doing what he did in 2020. And, you know, I think people noticed that change, and it's not good for him.
And Joe, close us out here. What is the vibe like among convention goers? Are they even sweating Biden at all, or is it just assumed that?
No, I mean, it makes sense because it's convention week, obviously, but like, they are full steam ahead. They know that they have the feeling that they're preparing for a landslide. And reporting shows that's true, that like the Trump campaign is like, if Biden sticks in this thing, we're going to crush him, because he was ahead and now he's even more ahead. And then there's an optimism too among like the down ballot candidates, because prior to this, the down ballot candidates in the swing states were running slightly ahead of Biden. But if Biden goes that far down, he can drag them down. And then they start losing these races that they probably should have won. I mean, we saw today Biden down 7 in Arizona. That could be enough to drag Carrie Lake over the finish line.
Right.
In a race that everyone thought, oh, she was the worst investment for Republicans this cycle. There's now glimmers of optimism there.
Yeah. It's pretty bleak on the Democratic side. AB, do you want to add anything? Seems like you're
No, I agree, because what people have been noticing for months before the debate was the delta between the way that Gallego and Tammy Baldwin and Bob Casey and all these Democratic candidates were polling compared to Biden. And so it was like very clear that the not red state Democrats, Tester in Montana and Sherrod Brown in Ohio, but everyone else in these swing states, they were polling way above Biden. It was clearly a Biden problem. And then the debate came. And so
we saw it today in some polling too, where it's like Bob Casey's up like 11, but Biden's down 3. And you're like, oh my God, how can that even happen?
But Joe makes the point, right? And that's what people are warning about Biden, that when they're looking at the data, they're looking at the purpling of Minnesota, New Mexico, New Hampshire, and Virginia. And they're saying, wow, this could save a candidate whose poll is as weak as Carrie Lake. It can push and coattail weak Republican candidates who are now behind Democrats in those Senate races. And anyway, Democrats are very well aware this is the House and the Senate and not just the White House. It would be a wipeout.
We'll see how this plays out in the next couple of days. We'll see how it plays out at the convention over the next couple of days. Let me make a closing plea to the people who are in the comments section. We value your feedback. How can we make this better experience for you guys? Let us know. Drop us a line, an email. We're going to be doing this tomorrow night. We're going to be doing this Wednesday night. We're going to be doing this Thursday night. So help us make it better for you. And tune in tomorrow. We'll give you a time shortly. But thank you for joining us. And thank you, Joe, Jim, and AB for offering your thoughts on this stuff too. Appreciate it. All right. Take care, guys. One night in the books.